All right, so this is an interesting video. This is one you want to watch for sure. I've mentioned this guy before, Jeff. Is it Berwick? Yeah, of the Dollar Vigilante. And you remember when Christine Lagarde, about roughly 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years, whatever it was, somewhere around there, she comes out. She's having this big press release meeting. And again, the IMF is the International Monetary Fund. It is a big elitist organization. She is the head of that organization. And as she's walking out to speak on the microphone at the podium, someone in the front row says something to her. I don't know what they say, but she responds and like kind of giggles and laughs like, yeah, they tell me what they say and I just come out here and do it. Yeah. And then walks up to the podium to give her speech. And if you take that one speech out, and then look at all of the IMF speeches that have ever been done by any of their head person, in this case, Christine Lagarde, but even before that was Dominique Strauss-Kahn, and before him, whoever, no one gave a speech like this ever. It's always been to the point where the IMF, we're going to talk about international monetary related stuff. This time, however, was different. And she comes out and starts talking about the number 7 and how important the number 7 is and cycles of 7 and 7 and this one minus that equals 7. Take away this, take away that. It's a 7. So you can see the 7 is really important. And goes on to talk about the 7. And we all realize she's giving a hint. What was the next 7 in real life? 7-year cycle. September, October 2015, the Shemitah cycle starts. We do have $11 trillion wiped off the market from that point to the beginning part of 2016, by the way. A lot of economic indicators at that point were showing, holy crap, bad things are happening, economically speaking. Then we had this little recovery after that, right? We're back up to where this little recovery is. However, this Shemitah cycle is I guess it lasts a full year, and it ends, this particular one ends in a Jubilee year. 7 of the 7 cycles, 7 times 7 is 49. And they're talking about back then, if you go back to that point and this point, this should be the really important one. So we discussed, I discussed this, other people discussed this back in the latter part of 2015, what's going to happen and, what can we expect and what do the other Shemitah cycles show and all that. And it's always a crashing of the markets, stocks diving, etc. It's exactly what happened. But then all of a sudden they recovered and everything seemed to be okay. And now we have Brexit taking place. The UK leaves and all hell breaks loose on the markets again. I'm here to tell you my opinion, and I've said this, was that they were going to use the UK as their stepping stone and be able to point the finger. You guys started this. You caused this. And then if they allow any other countries to leave, which they probably will, it'll even be more devastating. Because what happened immediately after? Oh, now so-and-so, they're talking about leaving. This one over here wants to leave again. Greece is back in the picture, and they want to leave. Just like I said would happen if the Brexit took place. I said you'll watch. As soon as that happens, it'll be a stepping stone. The next one will come, the next one will come, the next one will come. Now, I read that, what was the number? Somewhere 100 and something or $200 billion, something like that, was lost by the elite. And it showed a Bloomberg chart of the world's richest 400 people. And as soon as Brexit happened, whoosh, they had a little chop off of their wealth. But it said combined wealth was like, prior to this was, 4 trillion. Now it's like 3.8 trillion. So in other words, no big deal. I also looked at that same chart and it showed in the very beginning of January, they were down way more than 3.8 trillion. It was down in the low 3 trillions. They've recently, over the last 6 months, gained all that back to the 4 trillion mark, minus right now the Brexit, taking it back to 3.8 trillion or so. These are the people that Forbes magazine talks about, Bill Gates and this person and that person. These aren't club members. Those are minions. The club, do you ever hear the Rockefellers listed on Forbes magazine? Have you ever seen the Rockefellers' wealth listed there? How about the Rothschild family? 2 richest families on the face of the earth. How come they're not on Forbes or Bloomberg doesn't talk about their wealth? Because they know better. They're not listed. So, back to this story. 7 cycle, it was given to us multiple times. They put it in the movies, you name it. It was blaring you in the face. So at the end of this year, around October, is the end of this 7-year Shemitah cycle, whatever. And it ends again in a Jubilee. And as I said, I'm here to tell you, it may be a jubilee for the bankers club, where they get to wipe off all their debt somehow. But you at home, you own that mortgage, that car payment, that credit card payment, you aren't even kind of getting a bailout or even a write-off or much less debt, repudiation to completely wipe it off. That's only for the club. And they don't just do it like, oh, we're going to bail ourselves out and just write this off. It's going to be a destruction. So you'll hear the news that this has been a destruction of the financial system and blah, blah, blah. You're not going to hear that they're doing this on purpose and that was their plan all along to get rid of this crap. These, tens of trillions of dollars that each of these banks owns in derivatives products, that's going away. But let me continue with this article because it talks about 7777, how they put it in your face to begin with, etc. And when this next 7 piece fits right in, which by the way has exactly to do with Brexit, which tells me it was absolutely positively planned to allow the UK to leave. 5248, the people have spoken. You're going to find out that the original date that they were supposed to do this referendum for Brexit was actually in the latter part of 2017 when the Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, decided out of nowhere, we're going to speed that up. We're going to do it on June 23rd, 2016. Why did he pick that date? Let's see if we can figure that out with this awesome article from Jeff Berwick. In 2014, Christine Lagarde gave a speech on the magic number 7. It, along with work by Jonathan Kahn, he was the Shemitah guy, led us to the Shemitah 7-year cycle in the Jubilee year, which the globalist elites are well aware of. What we've discovered since is that there is even more to the magic number 7 than just years. It appears to correlate right down to the months, weeks, and days. The last major market crash occurred on September 29th, 2008. On that day, the Dow Jones fell 777 points, 777, of all numbers. It was the biggest one-day drop ever. Again, since the club controls the markets, you already know this. If you're just finding out about this and you don't believe this, sorry about your luck, go somewhere else. Because we're way beyond that. I don't have time to get into it. That was like the club, like, you know how gangs, they'll go to, oh, someone just marked our spot over here. We're going to paint that out, and then, they call it tagging. We're going to tag this wall with our symbolism, gang, whatever gang you might be, Blood, Crip, MS-13, whatever it is. And then the other gang sees that, oh, man, that was our territory. You did that. Now we're going to do it back. So the average person driving by just sees this weird graffiti. What the hell is that? We relate it to the gang somehow, but we don't know what the hell it means. But to the gangs, the ones who wrote it, they know exactly what the symbolism meant. And they're writing it on the wall. So the other gang who knows, well, we know what that means. We better watch our backs. They're going to kill us if we do it again. They've got their symbolism on the wall. The average person, bozo, us Americans, drive by, see graffiti, and keep driving by. Oh, terrible. They just deface that wall like that and keep going. But it was a secret conversation, if you will. The club is no different. They put it right out in front of you. They put it in the Hollywood movies. They put it on their IMF speeches. They put it wherever they want. They had Gordon Brown reschedule the Brexit vote, for God's sakes. Imagine that. So let's continue. On that day, the Dow Jones back in 2008 fell 777 points of all numbers. It's the biggest one-day drop ever. On Friday, in the aftermath, this past Friday, of Brexit, the Dow fell over 600 points. What's interesting about Friday's date, though, it was 7 years, 7 months, 7 weeks, and 7 days since September 29, 2008. 7 years, 7 months, 7 weeks, and exactly 7 days since the crash of 2008. The exact day it started, September 29th. Again, the original, because here's the thing, you can get the bozos out there to say, well, that's just a coincidence. It doesn't mean anything. The people voted. It was their vote that counted, and it just happened to be on that date. So what? hold on. The date was rescheduled from 2017 to be the 29th, or the Thursday, which is before this exact date. And they would count the votes the next morning, which is that Friday, right? So then we have the Friday really showing us what the numbers really were. And that's when markets broke loose. You can't tell me that was all completely coincidence. They wanted this to happen. My theory was that they wanted to point the whole world to the UK leaving, causing this problem. And as I'll read here, you'll hear that there was a $250 billion stealth bailout that just happened over in the UK over this that no one's even reporting. So you can see it was about the bailout to start with, not about the UK getting its freedom back. So let me continue as he exposes all of this. The magic number 7 once again. And what a day Friday, June 24th was. The Japan Nikkei fell down more than 7% and was closed. The London FTSE exchange lost $100 billion or euros in value and fell as much as 8.7%. And the Dow fell 600 points. And the British pound fell 10% to a new 30-year low. This is exactly the type of super Shemitah/Jubilee volatility we've warned about. Clinical, catastrophic, methodical. While we were unsure if Brexit would succeed or not, we told subscribers to stick with their positions that were long in gold stocks, and Bitcoin, and short the U.S. stock market. It turned out to be another fantastic call, as gold soared nearly $100 on Friday, as did Bitcoin. Our gold stock positions also skyrocketed. So is Brexit part of the Jubilee plan, he says. Having had a day to think about all this that has transpired, it appears to us that Brexit could actually be part of the Jubilee year plan for maximum chaos. We were surprised to see Brexit win after all. Any past vote of this type, or after all, any past vote of this type has been stymied either through propaganda, vote rigging, or other manipulations. This time it appeared to be, the people have spoken. And as I said, and I've always said about this 51-49% votes, it was barely 52 to 48%. You have to sit back and ask yourself, and this goes for America too, because we see the same kind of numbers in our voting. Does half of the United States, let's just split it down the middle, okay? East and West. 50-50. Let's just call it 50-50. Does the east part of the United States go to different schools, different educators, different agenda, different everything, different lifestyles, you name it, and then the West Coast is also completely different? They look at your lifestyle on the East Coast and say, you guys are completely mad, your school systems are completely mad, the education's completely mad, the college systems are completely mad, we got it right over here. In order to be 50-50 completely opposite, that would have to happen. But it doesn't. We go to the same schools, the same public schools, the same colleges. It's the same everywhere. And the same goes for the EU zone and especially the United Kingdom, because that's one entity, the United Kingdom, within the EU. So, again, the whole damn country is split essentially 50-50. I cannot buy that. I can only buy that the vote shows what the club wants it to show, which has always been the case. So now that we have the 7s in here and him resetting the date to earlier, a year earlier approximately, and it happens to coincide with the magical 7 number that Christine Lagarde warned us about, not even warning us knowingly, just saying it out loud to let the elite know. Yet we can pick up on this if we're smart enough to decipher what the hell they're saying. As Lindsey Williams said, if you can decipher their buzzwords, the elite said to him, if they're buzzwords, you can figure out what they're trying to tell you. That was a prime example, by the way. This is first, David Cameron was elected upon his promise to hold a Brexit vote in 2017. He changed that, shocking many, to June 23rd of this year, just a day before the 7th year, 7th month, 7th week, and 7th day after the last major political crisis, so that the next day, 7777, would be the market dropping out, just like the market dropped out 2008 on that exact day. Why would he do such a thing? Take such a risk? He could have waited another 1 to possibly 2 years to take that risk. Lost in the headlines was that on Friday, Bank of England Governor Mark Carney, not to be confused with the Carney of, American amusement parks, but just as amusing, committed to printing up 250 billion pounds, or 345 billion USD, to support financial markets. No one has mentioned that or even seems to know about it. So within hours, the banks in the UK appear to have received a massive 2008 style bailout, but without anyone noticing. Now I want you to think about something. In America, during our TARP fund bailout, it was somewhere around $800 billion. But America, the number one economy of the world, right? You can't hold it. The UK can't even hold a candle to us in that respect, correct? I mean, come on. Not the EU even, just the UK. One little country in there, right? The UK. So the UK got a 250 billion, well, again, 345 billion in US dollars. That's almost half. That's about just under half of what we received in 2008. You can see clearly there's something else going on here. And who profited? People like George Soros, who moved into gold as his biggest position, which I covered the other day, by the way, if you were listening, and shorted the markets just in the last few weeks, even though he was out with the rest of the club minions telling people how bad this decision was going to be. You shouldn't do it. It's not going to be good for the EU. And like Goldman Sachs, what's he doing? The opposite of what he's saying, telling the people not to do. Given this, I think it is safe to say that this was planned. Again, I'll go into this far deeper to our subscribers early next week, but it appears to the demolition of the EU is part of the plan to create massive chaos in order to bring in the New World Order. Also, note that David Cameron has resigned but won't actually step down until October, which is just after the end of the Jubilee year. Also note that Brexit, the Brexit vote, isn't actually legally binding and has to be ratified by Parliament, which will not happen until at least October. Within hours of the Brexit vote, as I said would happen, massive movements to leave the EU have erupted in France, Sweden, Denmark, Holland, and Italy, which I also said I got to take credit myself because I said that would happen as well. And just prior to Brexit, Switzerland withdrew its long-standing application to join the EU. Soon we will likely see, aside from Brexit, a Grexit, a de-Portugal, an Italeave, a Frog-off, a Czech out, an Austria, in a Finnish, and Belgium, amongst others. This, if allowed to happen, will entail crisis after crisis, just as we said to expect by October of this year. So he's saying it. David Stockman had talked about it. Ron Paul talked about it. This particular end time of this year, October time frame, in Lindsey Williams' elite friend, according to Lindsey Williams in his latest DVD. So I do think now 100% it is safe to say it absolutely happened by plan, by design, especially when you consider they changed the date so that it lines up with 7-month, 7-year, 7-week, 7-day, magical sevens. You got to be kidding me. Take care.